Hi, everyone. Welcome to A New View. I'm Lee, and I'm here with Shira, Kim, and Juji. We are four friends, speakers, and professionals from different cultures, backgrounds, and age groups coming together to offer healing and inspiration. Today, we're going to have a discussion about being able to say no without feeling guilty. To most of us, this may feel like selfishness. But those of us who are people pleasers will resonate with this. You know who you are. Ladies, who would like to start this conversation?
I think I'll go first. I feel like I was having a discussion with Kim at one point about this and about how saying no makes her feel really, really guilty. And I think I said something along the lines of like, it's kind of like muscle memory. You have to practice. Because when you first start going to the gym, when you're trying to get into shape, it's like, it's tough, right? Like your muscles hurt, you're exhausted, it's not necessarily pleasant. And eventually it becomes so second nature to you to be working out and all of that, that it starts feeling good. It starts feeling natural to be doing these workouts and you look forward to it even. So I feel like saying no is kind of like that, but saying no isn't as overt as somebody necessarily asking you something. And you saying no, like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. It's a lot of little things that help you to get into that practice. And one of the examples that she used for me when she was talking to me was like, we have this group chat and you're not in it a lot. You're like, you chime in when you need to, but like, you don't feel obligated to consistently contribute or respond or whatever. And I can tell that you're protecting your energy when you're doing that. And like, I just don't know how to do that yet because I feel guilt when and you have a lot of group chats going on in your life, Kim. Like, not, I have my family group chat, which I literally never contribute to unless somebody literally asks me something. But I just see it as like, okay, I can respond when it's appropriate. Otherwise, like, I recognize that what's in front of me, what I'm doing, what I have energy for is what is most important. And why I say that that's important is because when somebody really does need me, that means that I have energy on reserve for that person. It's because I'm not like, spreading it out all over the place that when somebody really is in a position that they need something from me, that I have that to give. And that's really what saying no is for, right? So it's to say like, I can't give you this energy right now because I'm saving it for myself. But like when there's truly something that needs my attention, I can give it to you undivided.
Juji, I love that. It resonates so much because I definitely have a lot of guilt about not replying to text messages. And it's really a little ridiculous how many text messages I get on a daily basis. And some are work where I have to reply, right? And some are just lots of friends, lots of old colleagues, lots of people who are just like, hey, it's been a while, let's catch up. And I'm over here going, I don't have the time at all to give you, but I feel bad about that. And there comes in the guilt of like, I don't want to be that person to disappoint you. And basically, in a sense, saying, I don't want to make time for you. You're not somebody I want to make time for. And it's not because I don't care about you. It's because I care about me more. And there's guilt along with that. And I think there's, a lot of conditioning, especially with women, taking care of house and family and kids and husbands and parents and partners of all sorts. So like, I think partly it's that. And then of course, everybody has their childhood issues and stuff like that. Years ago, I had like a phase of my life where I would become very overwhelmed from saying yes too much and squeezing it in, squeezing it in, squeezing it in, no matter what. Oh, okay, I could just squeeze in to do that report for you, or I can just squeeze in that extra text, or like whatever it was, I would just, it felt better in a sense to squeeze it in and like get it over with and not look bad. So I would squeeze it in to the point of overwhelm. And then I noticed, this was like in our landmark days, Juji, the personal development course we took together a few years ago.
I remember.
That's when I saw the big picture. It's like all of a sudden I was like standing over myself and I saw this big picture, and on a monthly basis, I would get in such overwhelm where my cup would be completely empty and I would be in tears because I just felt so bad. And I think I didn't really understand what that feeling was. I just was like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, I'm full of anxiety, blah, blah, blah. But my cup was empty, and it was emptying. It was already empty. And then it just was like emptying more and more and more and more the longer I went along living like this. And then what do you see? I see psoriasis flaring up all over my skin. I see weight gain. I feel terrible. I have headaches. Like, this shit manifests in some way, shape, or form, and you have to take control of it and fix it, or it's just going to get worse. So I saw, like, this bird's eye view of this big picture, and I was like, "Ooh, that's not going to end up in a good place." And then I was like, I'm taking control of my self-care. I'm going to set more boundaries. I'm going to say no. And I did that. I worked towards that for a long time. And I felt like things were going pretty well. My skin cleared up and I felt great. And, there's new things going on in life. And it's very much like this. And then all of a sudden, COVID happens, working from home, squeezing in more stuff because now I can. And it's like all of a sudden I'm back to that same place of like, how did I get back here? I worked on that. Like, why is it so freaking hard for me to say no? What is wrong with me? It's like this cycle, this pattern, it's so unhealthy. And I'm just honestly really, really grateful today that I recognize it and that I'm going to continue to do things that help me feel grounded. Like, whether it's like, taking 5 minutes in the morning, now that Juji helped me make a little altar for myself in my bedroom, like even just lighting a candle and asking for clarity on like what next step to take, or if it's going for a morning walk. There's been so many mornings where work-related stuff, like people have asked me to meet early, or I've chosen to say yes. And it comes back to that sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like, when is it going to be the last time that I allow a meeting to take over my like morning walk, right? It's up to me. It's all up to me. So on one hand, it feels good to have that control to be like, I don't have to allow this. Like, this is all me. And then it feels also, I guess, a little lost at the same time because it's like this and but it's like, you didn't learn the lesson. Okay, you didn't learn the lesson. Oh, you learned the lesson. Oh, you didn't learn the lesson. It's like, so I'm in the middle of my messy right now, as you guys know, and I am just glad to see it because you know what? As the years goes by, I didn't see it as clearly. It's like every couple of years, I see it more clearly and more clearly. And now I see it so clearly that I can't have this excuse of like, I don't see it. I see it. So thank you guys for being on my journey with me because you guys teach me. Like I'm teaching people how to treat me, and you guys are helping me teach people how to treat me.
Yeah. Yeah. This is such an important topic because there's so many angles to come at it from. Like, oh, selfish is bad, right? We're taught selfish is bad. But first of all, you're allowed to commit to something and then realize that you don't have the bandwidth or the inclination to do it. And then you're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to do that. We feel like, because we're so used to committing, overextending, at some point you can just call up the person. Now, look, obviously if like they're in like a dire place and they need your help, like that's one thing. But if someone's asking you to do them a favor and you say yes, and then you're like, you know what, I really can't. There's nothing wrong with practicing. It's a really good practice to say, hey, listen, I really thought I was able to do this. But in reconsidering it, I'm not really going to have the time. Is it something that can be done later? Can I help you find, can someone else do it? Whatever it is, we're allowed to change our mind. Like, we just take it all on and then like, oh crap, I committed to this thing. Now I have to go. No, you don't actually have to. And the other part of it is, it's not just about not saying no to people. It's about saying yes to yourself. Like, so for example, like when I was raising my children, like I was always like, God, I really want to get back into tennis. Like, I just want to play tennis more. But it's like, well, how am I doing that? It's like I have to commit to it every week. And I remember making the decision, like, no, I'm going to do this and I'm going to find a way to get back into tennis. And I did for a while. I played for a few months, but it just felt so good to be like, I don't know, like the laundry, like that, all that shit's just going to have to wait. Or, like I could have asked my husband at the time for more help and I didn't. That's on me. Like, I see that now. I just took it all on because I had this overdeveloped sense of responsibility to other people, but meanwhile, I'm shortchanging myself. So it's just a very interesting, we all know the whole, put your oxygen. It's so funny. I was just talking to a friend and she said something about, you put your own oxygen mask on, put yourself, and I'm like, yeah, well, you've heard that a million times. She's like, no, I actually never heard of that before. And I'm like, really? Which just makes you go like, if it's new to you, then it's new to you. But I remember reading that going, that was a massive aha moment for me. I'm like, because the thing is, when you practice taking care of yourself more, which may include saying no to other people, which may include taking on, new practices of self-care, you do actually over time feel like you're better for them if you take care. Like it doesn't, like Juji, I think you were saying that whole practicing thing. Just fight through the resistance of saying to yourself, yeah, but you're not being a good mother. Yeah, but you're not being a good, like, you need to be there. No, you actually don't. Just stop, breathe, think about it, right? You do show up better for other people when you feel more refreshed, rejuvenated, fulfilled. It's just a duh, but we all still do it the other way.
Yeah. And with these situations that are longer term, right, with our families, work people, friends, whatever, yes. And then what about those situations that are surprise situations, right? Or they just kind of come about. I have an example to give that happened recently where in the neighborhood where I live, I know several people on my block. We're all pretty close, everyone's really great and nice. Like my next door neighbors, like I've driven, the wife to go visit the husband in the hospital when he had his surgery. But we all do little favors for each other. And I know that they would be here in a bind for me, other neighbors. But one day there was a knock on my door. I think it was a weekend day, must have been, I'm hardly ever home, but one day there was a knock on my door and some woman in a wheelchair and her little dog came over and she goes, and I don't even know if I've seen her around here, but she does live in my community. And she's like, hi, I have a favor to ask of you. My husband couldn't breathe and he had to go to the hospital and, but they're releasing him now. Do you think you can go pick him up at the hospital and bring him home? Now, this couple's like in their 80s. Never met them before in my life. Now, my initial instinct would be, of course, like, wouldn't even question it, but like something in the back of my mind said to me, Lee, you have never, ever met these people before. And this is not a light situation. Like the guy couldn't breathe. Like, what if he dies on the way home? Like, what if something catastrophic happens? And so I made that decision and I felt guilty until later when it was confirmed that this lady's a little crazy. She asked 3 other neighbors that she does know, and nobody wanted to get involved. Apparently there are issues with her. So in that moment, I had to make a decision and I did. And I said to her, I'm so sorry. I have another commitment and I can't do it. And, So very shortly after, I spoke to another neighbor, and they were like, yeah, no, she's constantly asking for favors and things like that, which I thought that was a little ballsy of her
That's
to do.
bizarre. That's
with a
bizarre. That almost
stranger.
sounded like it could have been like a scammy, spammy thing where it's just like you come out of your house and I don't know, they take your wallet, you know. You
Yeah,
like,
I mean, they really truly live here, and I don't know them well, but you know, if there's nobody else around and you know, you can't drive, like, I don't know, get an Uber. I mean, there are other options, or have the ambulance bring them back, you know? So anyway, that was a little example there for me. And I think with some other people in our lives, like our families, parents, whatever, these ongoing patterns where we do things so we avoid feeling the guilt, you know, there are expectations, I think, set in place, you know, by other people sometimes of us. And it could be our fault because we sometimes enable. People get used to a certain thing and they want to take. And it's like, wait a minute, where do you draw the line? You know, and at what point do you start to say, hey, no, this is not okay. I need to set some boundaries here.
I really like the term enlightened selfishness, because, you know, what is having no boundaries? It's trying to prove to yourself and others that you can like handle whatever it is. You know, like, I'm proving to you that I'm a good friend. I'm proving to you that I'm a good wife. I'm proving to you that I'm a good daughter, whatever that is. And when you let go of your desire to prove, and it stops being about, you know, we can say ego, whatever we want to call it, when we can let go of this like egoic desire to like kind of control other people's narrative of us, you know, because for me, the narrative used to be like, well, I don't ever want anyone to be able to say that I'm not a good friend. And if anybody ever tries, I have a laundry list of proof that that is not the case, you know, because of your birthday and the gift I gave you and the party I threw and the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Guess what? I think I'm a better friend now than I ever was back then, because it wasn't really truly coming from a place of love and overflow. It was coming from a desperate deficit of trying to prove so that we never have any conflict. And guess what? All it bred was conflict, because I would get to a point where I would become really resentful of other people's taking advantage of me, where I totally let that happen, first of all. And it's actually weird that we're having this conversation, because I was like on a call with my mom yesterday about something having to do with work. And my husband came in and she was like, are you going to have enough time to do your work? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, of course I am. And you know, later on, I was having a conversation with her and I was like, Mom, like, you don't have to worry about that. I know that you remember the times that I didn't have any boundaries and that my work was suffering because I was constantly spreading myself too thin. But like, I haven't been that person in years, literally years. And I know that a conditioned relationship is really difficult to, you know, unlearn. So like the way that she sees me still sometimes is that person who didn't have any boundaries, but it's important for me to share with her, like, no, if I say I'm going to get something done, it's going to get done. It's going to get done on time. It's going to get done well, because it's a priority for me. And everybody in my life that's in my life who knows me and loves me knows that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good, Juji. You know, I have just a thought that I have to share, and that is that I always thought, because I'm so responsive to people, like even at work, it's just like they Slack me, they text, they email, whatever. I'm just Johnny on the spot. And I notice in my mind that sometimes, like, if somebody isn't like really responsive, I'm like, yeah, well, I'm responsive. So it started to dawn on me that my need to boom, 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 like get back to people and stuff, like that may not be necessarily looked back on, like from their perspective of like, oh, Shira's so responsive. Like some people aren't that responsive. And you know what? Sometimes that's the healthier way to be. Like that's a lesson for me where I'm like, I don't have to respond to everything Johnny on the spot. That's coming out of what like Juju just said, this desperation of like, are people necessarily going like, oh, Shira's so, she takes care of things. Like, no, they're living their life. They're not like, it's the whole people pleasy thing. But what I've learned is that I very intentionally now go, yeah, I'm not going to respond to that right now. I don't have to respond to that right now. And that's where you just start breathing a little bit more, because who the hell wants to go through their life like that? Ugh, just like boom, boom, do. That's what you get. You get do.
You get do. Oh my God.
Just realize that. That's a good one. Do.
That is such a good place to wrap it up, ladies.
On the do. Yeah.
On the do, I'm afraid to say. So we're going to wrap it up right here. If you've enjoyed our conversation, please subscribe to our channel and be sure to let us know if you have any topic requests or questions by commenting below. We'll see you soon, and thank you for watching.
Bye.